Hello everybody, welcome back to Stormwatch Special Draft Edition, where our Stormwatch hosts, Jinxie and myself, Tetcher, are going to go over the drafted teams for this season of CCL. Hello Jinxie, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited for the draft.
Thanks for having you on the show that you also host. Feels good.
Thanks for having me on your segment, doing 90% of the work.
Well, every show needs its talent. In this case, we are going to go through the teams. We're going to talk about some of the interesting picks, some of the players to watch out for in our opinions, and then we're going to do a actual tier list of the teams based purely on our own opinions and biases. So make sure to stay tuned to the end of the video for that. So,
absolutely 100% correct.
Speaking of bias, we should disclose any current bias and affiliations that we do have. I am not affiliated with any of these teams, but I do like some of them.
I am technically still affiliated with Simplicity, and some of these teams do have a very special place in my heart.
I feel
I'm good friends with a lot of people who work with them, who work for them, who own them. So, yeah,
I feel you there. All right, let's have a look at the players. We're going to start off with the newer team. So let's start off simply as left to right as we reveal the rosters. Let's start off with Onyx, newer team to the division, and the return of a retired tank / offlaner. Bad Benny was one of the first pickups. People may have known him most famously as an offlaner for Fnatic on the Department of Department of Wubby. And he got a little bit of flack for that, but people are forgetting the fact that he was still one of the best offlaners, and before that was a fantastic tank, which tank is the role he's coming back to for this season.
Very nice. Yeah, I don't believe Bad Benny got the hate that he deserved. I'm hoping that people will be a lot nicer to him this time round.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm hoping Bad Benny will be a lot nicer to the community this time round, because I feel, for every lump that he took, he gave one back, which added a lot of fuel to the "we hate Bad Benny" train. So let's all just be kind to each other this time around.
Definitely feel you on there. So let's have a look at some of their other players. We have, as their second pick, Got Filth. Was played last season on, I believe, Crowd Control were playing him last season. No, it was Sidestep Kings, right?
Sidestep Kings, that's right.
Yeah.
I really adore Got Filth. I don't know them personally, but they've been in the amateur scene for a really long time. They've always put on a great show. They've always been really respectful and awesome. And so I really hope that they do well this time around, because he's just a really nice person.
As do I. It's always great to see when someone like that does well. And Sidestep Kings, well, they did struggle, didn't meet a lot of people's expectations, considering some of the, especially Korean talent that was on them last season. And with Sidestep Kings stepping away, it's good to see Gotfilth still making his way back in, especially with his pretty consistent success outside of CCL as well, with the Team Anti-Clown Association, where he plays pretty consistently for them. They were literally, this past weekend, eliminated from Storm Division, but they are still a solid team, and he still played really well.
Yeah, they won the NGS Heroic Division one year. They've just been doing such a great work. They've been playing great for a great amount of time, long time. Very good. Good team is good. Good player is good.
Very much agreed. So let's have a look at the next one, Uki. Or Uki. I still don't actually know how to pronunciate them. I believe it is Urki. Because it's something like a translation from Dutch, if I'm not mistaken, but that was a while ago. He is a relatively newer player to the scene, really only receiving any attention to begin with back in the European Open division, where he played on Nexus Think, a team that came 5th to 8th at their highest finish. And outside of that, his only real performance performance or real showing would be on Team Netherlands in the Nexus contest, where they didn't do too well. But it's in recent time that he's actually just really started showing up and putting on some incredible performances.
The name Ucky was given to him by his older brother, and it means little one. That's really charming.
That is adorable, and also his surname is definitely as hard to pronounce as his name, which we're not going to have a go at because, oh my god. But he's coming in, by the looks of it, as the offlane player for the team, one of potentially two offlane players, with the other European here, Copenhagen, who is a long-time experienced player in the hero scene. Again, 2018 is where he really started seeing success, but multiple wins under EPG, Granite Gaming, Lauber's fan club. He has just been a consistent figure in the EU scene, and seeing him finally getting in to the American scene with CCL is really good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard a little bit about him. I haven't gotten to see him play as much as I would like to, but, everything that I've heard, everything he's accomplished, I'm sure he's going to kill it.
Absolutely. And I believe he's currently playing for the Donuts as well. Yes, in a Masters Clash. So it's good to see them popping up, usually teaming with Lauber and Skook. So he's going to have to play against them this season, so that should be fun. And again, the Donuts are in the top 3 teams of Masters Clash with 30k and the Hardos, aka Hasselob's team, Hasselob's and Chris. So it's really cool to see him being able to pop up and really show what he could do. As we move on to their support player, Valimar. And obviously, Jigsy is more experienced with the American scene than I am. I'm getting better at it. But what can you tell me about Valimar?
Oh, well, I mean, as a player, Valimar, they've been long-standing. They've done, lots of amateur scenes. They've been here for a really long time. And I personally don't think that Valimar really ever got their comeuppance in the way that they deserved. But just really, really fantastic support player. When people think about, why did Brightwing become popular again? Why is she no longer a meme hero? Right around the first CCL, I think a lot of things also point to Valimar and their theory crafting and just a lot of the hard work that they put in the league. So I really, really adore them. They're also just a wonderful person through and through. So I'm really, really excited. They didn't get the opportunity to play last season. I really thought that they deserved to be here, and now they are, and I am really hyped for it because I like it when nice, good people get what they deserve.
Heck yeah. Always love to see it. As we move on to the last player now, it is important to note that Funds, or Fun Buns as it shows on your screen here, was not drafted by Onyx. He was drafted by Simplicity and then traded for Jay, who was picked by Onyx here in what could only be described as drama, where both the teams got fined for a little bit of a collusion, which was kind of scuppered by Storm, which we will talk about later, because Storm have the only team who was brave enough to try and get around the other teams, quote-unquote, colluding with each other, which was fantastic to see.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about this, so you might be the expert on that, Tetcher. So, that being said, please stop DMing me about Simplicity. I don't know. I just work here.
That is fair. But in this case, Funds, he was the 6th player for Wildtar last season and had a ridiculous win rate in the majority of the games they showed up, including some experimental stuff with pre-rework Lily, putting out some insane performances and some really good results with that. It was really experimental and has continued to play with Wildtar during the Storm Division games, putting on great performances and also showing that he's got even more range on those weird heroes like Samuro. The fact is, multiple teams wanted Funds. The most sought-after player, potentially. The fact that he was traded and bamboozle attempts by Storm Esports to try and prevent Funds going over to Onyx. The fact that Funds was picked up by Onyx, it seems to be a really good pickup for them. Even though he is in that 6th spot, they still seem very happy with him. The fact he was sought after so badly really shows how valued this player is. Let's move on to our second team, Storm Esports, who immediately did what everyone was expecting one of the new teams to do and first picked Lauber. Lolba is potentially the best tank in the world, one of the best, potentially the best tank in Europe, one of 4 Swedish tanks in Storm Division this season with Bad Benny, Skoog, and Gia. So fun to see that, but we all know just how insane Lolba is.
Yeah, really not much to say. Played Muradin with one hand in NA on NA ping, won most of their games.
Played ranked with their feet.
Great guy. I can't play rank with my hands, so...
I'm with you there, but of course Lolba is one of the most decorated players in this series. He got out of Open Division with Lolba's fan club and then E-Punks. With just the Leftovers, and then E-Punks, with Leftovers moving to... Leftovers eventually moving to Mopsio, I believe. But the fact is, Lolba is of value. He subbed in for Dignitas once and put on just an insane Johanna performance. Has first places out the ass. He is potentially one of the most decorated players, especially since HGC, with Granite Gaming, Lolba's fan club, all just scoring so many results and getting 3rd place last season with Crowd Control.
The only thing I'll say is I hope this season Lolba learns that Imperious Spears can be used to get out as well.
He answered that in an interview, not obviously that sentence in particular, but just one of my favorite quotes from any of the CCL interviews was, there is no out, only different degrees of in. And I love that as an attitude. But yes, being able to use that spear for escape, especially to get over tiny walls, is going to be potentially very effective. And he is a good Imperious player. BBJ traded to Storm Esports in exchange for one of their draft spots by 30k. Also, maker of tier lists and bribable BBJ and the other popularizer of the Brightwing support. He is a very good support. There is a reason Brightwing was so dominant for a long time, but he is one of the reasons.
Absolutely. You know, this I think is actually the one that shocked me most. Not only, I mean, obviously, you want to get what you can get. Fantastic support player, immaculate Brightwing, but him and Mike are such good friends. Like, they play Eternal Return together. They're always on each other's streams, always replying to their tweets and whatnot. And this really surprised me that he traded him away. Obviously, you know, you got to do what's best for business. You got to do what's best for the player. I'm not sure if there were any talks, any talks beforehand about, you know, trading and whatnot and what could be offered to him. But it really blew me away that he separated from 30k.
Very much agreed. It's very unusual to see, but in this case, we had a small talk with I had a small talk with Udal, asked him what his thoughts on the draft were, and they just wanted to go a different direction in this case, but he still believes that BBJ is going to be incredibly scary this season. We'll have to see how that does work out for them. We'll get to 30k with their draft in a second, because they got rid of BBJ in this case, traded him away for a spot that they wanted just for their particular draft, but they got a little bit more flexibility, whereas BBJ, you know you are getting a really, really solid pick. So it's a safe trade by Storm. I think they're going to be happy with that.
Absolutely.
IB Tings, as I've now been told it is pronounced. I always thought it was Ibtings. But
same.
Yeah, flex player, absolutely dominant in Storm Division this season, has been putting on an insane performance with TF Zogrugs playing with Legacy, and has just been kind of beating up everyone he lanes against. He's very flexible and very good at 1v1s.
Absolutely. Again, another player that I don't know a whole lot about. I know they've been in NGS for a really long time. I've gotten to cast them, you know, all the way up from like a Division A or so, Heroic when that came out. Now in Storm Division, so really chewing people up in the most recent Storm Division playoffs. If you guys haven't watched those, they've been eating at the bottom of the bracket, so they're actually in the finals. Spoilers for anybody. So if you see that, sorry. I guess go back and watch the games from like a week ago. But they are in the bottom bracket finals to go on and compete against Heavy Impact.
Very
and
much so.
I think there's a lot of that is in part to them and what they've been able to contribute in the offlane.
Couldn't agree more. Iptings is strong, he's powerful, he is flexible. But speaking of strong and powerful, Dayquaza. Offlaner again in the last series of CCL, this time getting picked up again in that melee role. Dayquaza is another player who came around after the end of HGC and played in the scene from there. Originally, one of his first showings was with Team France for the EU Nexus contest, where they lost to Team Russia in the finals, so came second. Otherwise, though, back when Heroes Hype was a thing and Method Mayhem's, lots of first places with Team Washed Up, which was another one of Hasselhoff's teams, and kinda dunked consistently. The end of 2020 is just gold for Dayquaza.
That's what I was gonna say, just a really decorated player in the amateur scene. I mean, you open up their Wikipedia page and you kind of got to squint because it's just blinding you with all the success they've had. Third place with crowd control last CCL. I think it's a really solid pickup.
And also, if it is French, it did not go on the bench. This is important to remember. Moving on to their two assassins in this case, CPX, otherwise known as Adrenaline, and we also had a last-second swap dropping Collusion for Kepi, the only Korean player this season.
I'm curious as to why there's only one Korean player. Maybe if it was just the time zone, because I think we had 3 or 4 picked up in the previous season, and a lot of them, they did fantastic jobs. Obviously, ping is a thing, and just they're playing at 5 in the morning, which is absolutely ridiculous. So, but Kepi, I've seen them a couple of times. They do a really great job. I think the spicy one that we want to talk about, CPX, there's a lot of baggage that comes with that name.
CPX did have a little bit of drama in 2020 where he made some statements that were considered to be, by a lot of people, including myself, to be a little transphobic, and shortly afterwards, in unrelated accounts, was dropped by his previous team, Chili Mountain, when they decided to go just all Swedish. It's a lot of baggage to come with. They have stated that they are making full commitments to change and to be a good ally for the community. They are still relatively popular in in terms of streaming for Heroes. We'll have to see if they can put on a solid enough performance and of course be a great enough community figure to show that they have that redemption. Let's jump back to Kepi super quickly before we move on. Once again, our only Korean player coming in here, but that doesn't mean he is inexperienced. He is another player who sort of showed up after HGC, mostly showing up in the HOTS Revival League. This was G-Clef's league back in Korea, where he had some really good performances. A lot of the time playing with some of the really good HGC players, and also in Chili Mountain's Winter Cup for South Korea, where they put on a great performance, but he was playing with TTSST, Kyocha, Hyde, Reset. He is a player considered by the best of Heroes of the Storm has ever had to be at their level, a teammate for them, and has showed himself in quite a few times, even subbing in for Team Alexander from time to time.
Yeah, there really isn't a whole lot to say about him. I feel bad saying that, but that doesn't mean that's a bad thing. Really, really solid player. You look at their page, first, second, third, fourth, especially the Chili Mountain Cup first place. Yeah, they had some really great players on their team as well. But I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Korean HOTS players playing on their own server. It's really amazing, and they put on a fantastic performance.
It really is. We loved those South Korean tournaments. Let's see some more of those at some point.
Absolutely. I know that Korea's hungry. I think that's where they had the highest players of Heroes still, and they want more.
That makes sense. I'm pretty sure Europe's quite high up there as well, but
yeah,
they definitely want more. We would love to see it. Especially as the Chinese players are playing on the Korean server as well, so they're really getting that supplement of skill.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's NA, despite the fact that nobody at NA watches. It feels bad. It feels
NA is
so
where
bad.
NA is where the money is, as it turns out. It's always been the case, even with Blizzard. Even though the viewership was higher on EU for a lot of the stuff, the money was a lot funded into NA a lot before any of the EU stuff when it first started, because that's where Blizzard's biggest marketing is.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Korea Cups, though, the team that actually ran them, or the organization that actually ran them, Chili Mountain, who, as I mentioned in the news, have gone for literally their exact Masters Clash team plus Caterpillar, which is weird. For starters, they're good players. They're really good players. They got Banana Rage. If it's French, it's off the bench. Feels amazing, fam. But the team they have for Masters Clash is currently 5th at time of recording. And they've chosen that, you know what's going to get us a win or a high position in the top level of play in CCL? The team that is currently 5th in just the European server. And that's kind of mind-blowing to me. The players are amazing and good, but it's a risk.
There's a lot surrounding Chili Mountain here too. So, I mean, looking through here, Maka, Burgle, Gia, Banana Age, Azurite, Caterpillar, all names that I think are like household names if you ever followed HGC, if you ever followed the amateur leagues. Great players. Hopefully now they've got, a little bit of extra money to help them, maybe work less hours at work, or help them to be economical while playing games. They'll be able to get some more practice time in. They'll be able to really hone those skills and work together as a team, communicating. I kind of hope they don't do what they did last season, where they just scrimmed for like 12 hours a day, 40 hours a week, because that's how you get burnt out. And I'd hate for them to see them burnt out and end up like 7-1 again.
Yeah, obviously the team struggling a little bit last season, where they were barely able to pick up a victory, but they are running with a small advantage here. Like you said, they have the benefit of the hindsight of what didn't work in Season 1, but they also are one of the only teams coming into this technically unchanged, but not from CCL, from Masters Clash, which ends right before CCL starts, or I think it might overlap a tiny bit. But they're technically coming in with a whole season of experience and much closer to the start of CCL than most of the other teams has. The only other team that's actually kept up with playing in a high level of play in between the CCL Season 1 and CCL Season 2 is Wildtar, playing in Storm Division. They're the only other team that has stayed as a whole and got that practice in. So Chili Mountain will be coming in with at least some momentum and experience. And of course, we saw how incredible Banana H was last season. And we know their talent and level of play. They've got Cattle, who played on Tempo Storm, one of the best teams America ever produced at the end of 2018, putting on amazing performances. 3rd at Western Clash, 1st in NA Phase 1, 2nd in NA Phase 2, 4th at Mid-Season Brawl, the highest position ever for an American team at a Mid-Season Brawl. They played really well.
So we're just not going to talk about Murky Samuro then?
That's BlizzCon. We're not going to talk about that. 5th to 8th place at BlizzCon to Dignitas. Some decisions have been made. Yeah, that is the end of that statement. Just, they have such strong players.
I mean, maybe it's a Galaxy brain play. If they need to step out for CCL or whatever, get 5th, practice together. Like, you bring up a really good point of working together and understanding how the team communicates. Is a really big advantage, just because we always see in CCL those first couple of weeks the teams trying to figure out, you've got a really aggressive assassin player, maybe a more timid tank, and then things don't end up quite working. There's a little bit of a miscommunication. Hopefully these guys won't have it, and especially Cattle in the kindest way. He's the grand old man of the league right now.
He is.
I'm looking here. He's 27, which is. It's so weird to say that that's considered, nearly geriatric for a professional esports player, but that's so many years of experience that I think will be really helpful. Not having those nerves on the big stage when 2,000 people are watching you play and watching every mistake and talking about KEKW picked Arthas or something like that.
Very true. So we'll have to see if that works out for them. Otherwise, the other players, every single one of them was on a CCL team in Season 1, with Maka playing for Chili Mountain along with Bergolt after late trades, and Gia. Banana H was the support for Oxygen, 4th place team, but also the 1st place team for over half the season. And Azurite was also a late pickup for Chili Mountain as well, I believe. I'm just checking. For 30k. Was who they picked up by originally.
Right, for 30k.
Yes, and was a really good substitute. So worked very well for them.
That's when 30k Luck started turning around a little bit, if I remember correctly, because they had a little bit of a rough season to start.
They did. They were struggling a little bit, which is a shame, because I love all their players. I like Azurite too, but it's always rough when you see a player who you like get swapped out a bit, and then the team starts winning, and you're like, oh, there's going to be blank with a problem jokes coming soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
But either way, Chili Mountain, they can't exactly do worse than last season unless they lose every single game. So a lot of people are going to be looking at them, but there's going to be memes, but they have nothing to lose. They have everything to gain. Going to be keeping an eye on them.
Absolutely.
Granite Gaming dropped their entire freaking roster at the end of last season.
I love this because Granite Gaming has gone with the 5 EU players and an American sub. It didn't work, so what if we drafted 5 new EU players and an American sub? There's no way that this could go wrong.
It was definitely unexpected and unusual, especially seeing as they drafted back several of their players directly after releasing them all. They drafted 3 of their 6 dropped players back, but that's how it is in this case. But they brought up some new talents. Obviously, the people they brought back, unsurprisingly, were the Swedes, with Skug, Svamgrotta, and Henning being brought back. But they did pick up Ultralisk, who was a big standout of Season 1, playing for Sidestep Kings when they played. They were one of the most consistent assassins and played gorgeous games. We, of course, had from 30k, Ty, who was a deadly assassin, sometimes a little bit of a tracer player on EU. We'll have to see if they're able to pull that off on NA. And their newest player, and I believe first time in CCL, Fancy Pants, has materialized.
Yeah, it should be a really fun roster. The guys are great, obviously, all very decorated. Fancy Pants is a little bit of a dark horse, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Nobody really knows a whole lot about them. We know that they've been in, amateur leagues here and there, done pretty all right. But, a lot of people on a lot of these teams were dark horses. Funds was an absolute, everyone's like, who is this player? And ended up being the most valuable player of Season 2. So really, Fancy Pants is really nothing to hold them back. Not say like Caterpillar, Bad Benny, where everyone's like, this is how you used to play. How do you play now? They've got nowhere to go but up.
Very true. It is also interesting that we do have Fancy Pants playing on one of the teams that is still in Storm Division. Storm Division actually had a huge pickup of the players from the top teams, with 2 players from ACA coming in, with Jay and Gotfilth. We had Mason Blaze taken from Heavy Impact, previous season champions. Regen already had most of their players drafted. And TF Zogrugs, Fancy Pants was picked up from there, along with CPX, IB Tings, and obviously Legacy already played for a team. But we can see their experience currently sitting in that lower bracket finals versus Wildtar Esports, and we're going to get a lovely sneak preview of how strong Fancy Pants is when that match comes up. So that's very exciting to see, but we already know just how insanely strong they are via the TF Zugrugs matches.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to 30k. The team that at the start of Season 1 looked to be one of the strongest, performing insanely well in the Icebreaker Cup, which the newest one will be coming up soon, so we'll get a lovely preview of the teams coming there, and it will completely invalidate our tier list, but again, it's going to be based incredibly biasedly. But we have Hasu. We already knew that was going to be a big thing. Fury staying with the team as well. He was a late pickup for the team and played really nicely, but with the trade out of BBJ, they needed a support. And then they drafted X-Ray, making a lot of people believe that he was going to be the support for them, because that is his usual role. But a lot of people don't know that X-Ray also plays tank, and it's been confirmed by Rob, one of the people behind 30k, that they are planning on running X-Ray in the tank role, meaning their 6th pick, by the looks of it, Yasu, is going to be their healer. And if you watch Season 1, Yasu is a god. Also, French off the bench, get in the game.
This is so crazy to me, because one of the biggest dramatic moments of Season 1 of CCL was Chili Mountain. They had the very first pick for the very first ever CCL tournament. Everyone was super hyped for this. They pick up Fury. Everyone said that's absolutely the correct pick. Great tank player. You know, this is something that is going to carry. And then after a couple of weeks, they ended up dropping him for who was Masquerade, I believe.
Yes.
So
no, wait, it was the other way around. It was the other way around, right? Because Masquerade
was picked up by 30k, and then they ended up basically just trading. If I remember correctly,
they picked
or was
up
it
both.
Burgold?
Masquerade was their 6th.
That's right. Okay. Well, anyways, all you guys need to know: Chili Mountain picked up Fury. They released him. 30k picked him up, and everyone said, you know, you couldn't have done better, Mike. Like this was a really smart pick. You really got your hands on gold here. And now people are confirming that Fury is going to be on the bench. You know, that this is a player that they kept. They released a couple of guys. They kept Fury. And to keep them on 6 has me wondering, you know, what do they have in store for this next season?
Seeing him coming back in, Fury, he's definitely... We've already know he's a good stead hand when it comes to the tank plays. Very good Imperious player. So really a big fan of that. Very much a fan of Varian these days. Been playing a lot of that. If I remember correctly, I might be getting that mixed up with someone else. But having X-Ray, it's going to be a different factor. That EU tank style we see, going to be very interesting to see how that adjusts to the team. And obviously, X-Ray is someone who has played a lot with Hasu. And a lot against Hasu, with Feel the Heat versus Washed Up being one of the EU matchups from back in the day, and Dynao fitting into that very well as well. One of the top assassins from last season as well. A very, very safe draft from 30k, I think. They just went for just skill across the board, but that X-Ray pick is definitely the most out there choice. But I'm glad we're going to get to see Yasu play more games, because we love Yasu.
Big fan, yeah. Dynao, another household name. Everybody loves him. Everybody adores him. Again, another player who's just gold all across the board. Gold, silvers, bronzes, you know, not jumping down into like the blues of 6th place like some of these other players. Just all around, well-rounded, very safe. And I like what 30k has done this time around. You know, everybody was kind of arguing last season, did they just go for names? BBJ, trying to think of who else they Hasuabs, obviously.
Their last season roster was Hasu, BBJ, Vespertine, Tai, Fury, and then Azerite, but Azerite was traded in later for Masquerade.
Right, of course. So a lot of people saying, you know, they went for names, they went for people who are going to be watched, which, again, if that's what you're looking to get out of the org, it's a fantastic, fine business model. I don't know if that was necessarily what they were going for. That's what a lot of folks believed. This time going for skill, I'm really, really hoping that we're going to see them place a little bit higher this time around.
I'd be excited to see that. I think so. They definitely had some of the most potential, and they looked like they were going to have a little bit of resurgence at the end of the season, as we said before. This time, they're coming in with a roster that they seem to be a little bit more happy with. We'll have to see how that goes, because last time they looked pretty solid, but there was a big parting of the ways when Masquerade left them and Fury came on as the full-time tank. And again, I like the fact that they have 2 tanks. I hope they will be flexible with that, because I think both of them are going to have different strengths. We'll have to see how this goes, and of course, 30k were definitely a little bit experimental with their drafts at the time. They were one of the big proprietors of Deathwing on Volskaya Foundry. They played a little bit of Rexar in the 4-man. They were one of the big teams to start that, which has still being played today. They have the potential to do well this season. The expectations are high, but they were also high last season, and they did not perform as well as a lot of people were expecting.
It's another one we're going to have to wait and see. I like what they've done this time round, and we're excited for them.
All right. The team that was dominant through most of last season until finally started to lose in the latter stages after the medallion was removed and the recent patches and the patches at the time came in and changed how the meta was played. Oxygen Esports. Mostly unchanged again. They did bring in Drated and Heavy. Cascon staying on by the looks of it as potentially the main support this time. We will have to see, but they have they lost Banana H. Obviously, Banana H did move on to join up with Chelly Mountain. So Drated is new. They've obviously lost Prismat, who moved on to play a different game. Madara still with them. Hebi is new, but they have had a pretty significant roster change.
Absolutely. It's going to be a very different Oxygen, I think. And I think that's probably for the best because Oxygen was probably one of the most technically skilled teams in the league. Obviously, you know, they dominated for 99.9% of the season, really only faltering at the playoffs, which stinks. That's probably the worst place to falter there. But that being said, I think one of the biggest problems with Oxygen, everybody was so technically skilled. Everybody had an opinion. Everybody was right in a sense. And they started to overthink a lot of what they were doing. And as such, it led to delays and losing to things like Murky and Garden of Terror, which is unlucky. So, I like their new draft. I think it'll really add a lot to how they play. And I've always been a big fan of support in the the sub role, just because every support player has strengths and weaknesses. Usually every player has 3 or 4 heroes that they play well, and that allows for, you know, all right, so we want a lockdown draft. We can think of Malfurion, we can think of Ana, you know, and you just have somebody for any occasion.
Very true. And in terms of experience, they have a lot of it. Cascon, one of the top players in EU Open. Most of these players, outside of HGC, outside of Nasmus, there was not a huge amount of HGC experience with this team. I think Drated might have been as well. I will double check that. But this is a lot of new blood, but with a lot of experience when it came to... Yes, Drated was in HGC on Octalysis. But it's a lot of new experience from the post-HGC world. A lot of power in there. Like you said, the support in the 6th choice might be good for them. And they're also coming in with one of the only 2 teams running with a coach alongside Granite Gaming, who are running Chelvin. Very experienced coach for multiple teams and a solid player for Go Next in the European scene. But Cavalier Guest, who has proven themselves throughout HGC time, and Heroes Global Quiz loser, but incredibly knowledgeable Heroes player. That show will be coming back, by the way. Subscribe for that. But yeah, they've shown they have the experience. They've shown they have the skill. This new roster might be what they need to potentially seize what looked like for the most of Season 1 was theirs. We'll have to see if they can pull it off.
You know, here's to you, Oxygen. Really solid group of players here, and their management is so nice. I like Cav. He was so sweet. He was a graceful loser on your hero, the Heroes Global Quiz. Yeah, sorry, got there in the end. And then Steve is just a delight. We love Steve.
Speaking of fantastic management and supports in the 6th pick, Wildtar Esports is our next team.
I love Wildtar.
We are both big fans of Goon. We think he's an absolute delight. Go on.
I just love Goon, okay? Like, as a person, as an organization owner, their philosophy on everything, you know, we cast together a lot, we chat a lot. I absolutely just adore him so much. He's just got just so nice to speak to. Like, the other day we were chatting after cast, and he's like complaining about his dog, and I was like, yes, of course. And then I walk away, and I'm like, I feel much better. I was crabby, but so you know, having somebody like that on your team and telling the players, because the big thing that he propriates is we are here to have fun, and if we win, that's cool too.
Absolutely. And that's great to see. And he's always supporting his team. Wildtar, as we already mentioned, the only team to play in Storm Division out of all of these teams, and the only team to play off-season as a team in a league outside of the Neutrally Mountain lineup. And only one roster change. Weary Day, who was the 6th pick last season, is now looking to be the starting tank, but they've got a really, really solid fill for that 6th pick with Mason Blaze, who is strong when it comes to full performances, and I believe another Storm Division player. Heavy Impact. I am just double checking because there's a lot of teams. Yep, Mason Blaze, who is actually the melee player for Heavy Impact, interesting enough, but has been picked up in the support role.
So Mason Blaze actually did swap to the support for Heavy Impact. Not sure why it says that there, but a really, really fantastic support. I've always, known them specifically for their Deckard. There were a couple of games with Storm Division where I was like, you have to ban Mason Blaze's Deckard. Last season especially, it really dominated. One of the big things to note, I think, is Buds. I don't believe they played damage for Wildheart last season, and they've sort of swapped to that. They were the support player, if I remember correctly.
Let me check that. I'm not 100% on that in terms of knowledge, so let me quickly double check. Season 1, Wildtar Esports. Yes, Buds was down as the support player. You are correct, with Weary Day being on the 2nd support, but he did get swapped in a couple times, and I believe they changed Buds to Assassin a couple times after that.
It's been a really wild, obviously, the whole roster is flexible. It's one of those rosters where somebody bans Uther against the Wildheart roster, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's a respect ban on me." Whether you're an offlaner, a DPS, or a tank, or a support. So Wildheart coming in 2nd place, keeping their roster. Really, just if it's not broke, don't fix it. Justing. Galaxy Brain, Drafter, the EU people, I will say, do have a better idea of what to expect this time around. Pulling out things like let's just main tank Kira. Wouldn't that be so fun? Or I'm just gonna Leo and suck them all off and win. So definitely a team to watch out for.
They are the only team without any European players. Every other team has at least one, in some cases only one, but they are the only team running full America and Canadian, so they do have some health insurance when it comes to the team. Definitely the weakest when it comes to the health insurance teams. But overall, it's still looking solid. It's basically the same team as last season. They don't have Funds this time, who it will be playing for Onyx this time, as we already mentioned, but Mason Blaze is a solid player. It's going to allow them to be flexible, and if there's one thing we can say about Wildheart, it is they are flexible, and we love it when they experiment and they try different stuff, and they've been having a lot of experimental times in Storm Division, currently in that lower bracket finals. We'll see how they do there, and that's going to be another little sneak peek of what's coming for CCL Season 2 before the Icebreaker Cup.
I will say what Wildhearted lacks in health insurance, Goon provides in good vibes.
Emotional insurance.
Them out there. Yes, spiritually they're fantastic.
It is true. So, moving on to our final team, previous season champions, Simplicity. Very unchanged. Almost the exact same. The only change here was Jay was picked up after being traded for Fun Buns with Onyx. That is the only change to the team. Hosty, via the power of collusion and blackmail, was able to get themselves redrafted to Simplicity. I am so kidding. But in this case, they were able to get themselves drafted back to Simplicity, and as such, the roster is basically the same. Very little problems there. Season 1, they had, who was their Collusion. Collusion is now in the free agent pool due to some trading stuff. So Jay is now with Simplicity, and Simplicity will not be able to get Collusion back if they did want them. But Jay's a solid pickup, and otherwise, the team's the same, and they won. So, failing to see too many problems there.
First of all, you can't think of my boys like that. I'm just saying. They did a pretty good job, and sometimes things happen that not everybody knows 100% about, myself included. So seriously, don't ask me what happened. Oh.
Yeah, that is not Jinxie's job at all.
So my job is to go, oh, like they did such a good job at winning because they're the winners. They're so winning. Yeah, great roster. Obviously, they got the big W. They started out in a little bit of a rough spot. I'd like to say that, I believe in them 100% of the time. I said that they were a B to A tier team the entire time. Everyone said, Jinxie, you're just biased because they give you $0 and a portrait. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I am, but I think they're good, and there's some good stuff coming that y'all don't know about. And they ended up winning, so
Yeah, fair enough. They did have to have a roster swap partway through the season. But to be fair, that's kind of when their luck turned around. As much as we love the players that they got rid of, Noah and Wit, who are really, really solid players, and maybe we'll see them season 3. It is really when Masquerade came in a couple weeks after that, when they started getting used to each other, that their luck turned around and went on the run through the playoffs gauntlet to win the whole thing. We'll have to see if they come out swinging or whether it's going to be another fight from behind season for them.
Absolutely. I'm going to have to just respectfully disagree with you here a little bit, Tetcher. I think the winning piece was swapping in Legacy. Just an
yes, you are correct.
Destructive force in a support. Lucio that changed the world. Just a great player. Their draft analysis, their experience with the game, I really think helped turn it around for Simplicity. So big shouts to Legacy, and I'm so glad they kept him on. I'm so glad they picked him up.
I very much agree with you. You are right. I completely forgot that Legacy was one of the people they swapped in. And yeah, when Legacy came in, their luck did turn, and they dominated the playoffs. So good for them. So before we move on to a tier list, we're going to pick one player from each team, that we think is the player to watch. We'll start with just where we left off now. Who are we watching from Simplicity? Who do you think is going to be the player to keep an eye on for them?
I think it's going to be Legacy again.
With you there. Completely 100% agreed. They are the big game changer when it came to that. Very excited to see. If not, Cure, his Zeratul last season was kinda meta-defining when it came to their own style of meta, which just dominated and countered the other metas. So we'll have to see if that comes out again, but Legacy was such a big part of their victories. Wildtar.
Ooh, this is a tough one. Everybody contributes so much. Justing is the driving force behind the madness. So Justing, aka Pit Kid. Mason Blaze, though, I think I do too. I think Mason Blaze is going to do some pretty amazing stuff.
I think there's some solid choices. I think you could have some pretty good results there. I think I'm honestly excited to see Buds. I'm interested to see how they perform in the full damage rolls. They have kind of been assuming that is what they're going for this season, as we are using Liquipedia here. Citation can be needed in these cases, but if they are playing Assassin this role, this will be one of their first seasons playing full Assassins, so I'm excited to see how they perform. So, Oxygen Esports. I think Cascon, because I always love Cascon. Cascon is one of the most underrated supports in the world right now, and with the rise of Malfurion again, I think we're going to see Cascon really start to pop off this season.
I think Cascon is a fantastic choice. Great support, everything you said there. I'm going to look at Heavy. I want to see what they do with the 6th player this time round.
Sounds like a plan. 30k. I'm going for X-Ray. Swapping from support. This is going to be one of his first seasons playing full tank, if that is correct. And if not, we already know he's a godlike support. I still think he's going to be the player to watch.
I'm of the, Hasu, been a staple for so long. Another driving force behind the team. Really excited to see just the insane outplays that they're going to perform. You
can never go wrong with Hasu. Couldn't agree with you more there. Granite Gaming.
Granite Gaming. All right. I already kind of touched base on this. I'm going to say Fancy Pants just because we don't know a whole lot about them outside of Storm Division.
I love Fancy Pants, and I would go for Fancy Pants if Ty wasn't here. They were picked up very early last season, and they didn't really get the chance to shine. I think they would have liked to. They did have a little bit of struggles. Now they've had an extra season in NA to get that experience under their belt. I'd really like to see Ty pop off, so I'd love to see that. Show us why they are so highly valued on the EU server. So I'd love to see that.
Sense.
Chili Mountain.
All right, I think we'll probably be in agreement here. I'm going to say Banana H.
Yep,
I like to see them win.
Banana H, though, is also one of those big Lucio players, along with Legacy, who just ruined everyone's day in the rise of Lucio coming back into the meta. So, yes, 100% agree, Banana H is a god. Absolutely should be the person to watch on this team. Storm Esports.
Oh, now this is a tough one because I want to see how BBJ is going to adapt. Lulba, absolutely, just always going to perform well. And then I think, though, I have to say it, Dequaza, because they've been so underrated in EU for such a long time.
I'm going to go with IB Tings because they're a newer player to the league, and we've seen their performance in Storm Div putting on such incredible games, and seeing them come out here into that melee role and that flex role, I'm excited to see, because we already know they have such insane stuff like that Zeratul hidden away in their belt that they could really cause some chaos, especially for teams like Simplicity, who kind of had a monopoly on the Zeratul before this season. And finally, Onyx.
This is another hard one because Funds has been just expanding their roster. 88 heroes to play, and he probably can play all of them to an extent. Valimar, LOL, F-tier player. I disagree. I think they're going to do amazing things. The big one, though, Bad Benny. How rusty are ya?
Bad Benny is currently in first place in the EU Masters Cup, along with the Hardos, which is, of course, the team of all the retired players plus Copenhagen, I believe, where it's Hasu, Chris, and Bad Benny all played together.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, seeing them back on the tank role makes me very excited. I'm leaning on Funds. I want to see them get more games. I always enjoy watching Funds play. They're the player who played the Lili in the last season. I can't get enough of their play. Lili, Samuro, all the stuff that is incredibly infuriating to play against, Funds plays to a great degree, and I love those games. So I'm leaning on Funds.
For sure. Do you think it's ever a little bit of an issue with these teams? Bad Benny and Hasu, they're playing on the same team right now. Sharing draft information or anything like that. You see a Hasu lock in, like, I don't know, something super spicy and unusual, like a Genji, and then Bad Benny's gonna be there like, oh, you need to ban Malfurion or something, and everyone's like, that's really weird, but then after the game, Hasu's just there like, you fuck.
You know what? I could absolutely see that being a thing. Oh, man. All right. Also, I have only just... also, we're talking about Hot's grandpa. I mean, if we're talking about Hot's grandpa, it kind of has to be Hasu as well.
That's fair.
I think he might be the oldest player in the league. He's definitely the most experienced, being world-class in 3 different games, which is more than most people can say about one game.
Yeah, Hasu's an old man, 32.
Yeah. Old lad. But it all comes with all that experience, so we're excited to see.
Absolutely.
Falstad God, Raider God, so many options. The Rexar God these days. Getting that StarCraft micro back in there from his old experience there. But it's all good to see. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to... We're going to do our tier list. Once again, this is going to be based purely on personal bias with a little bit of analysis thrown in here. We're going from S tier all the way down to D tier. All right, let's start with the team. I have off screen at the bottom here, Storm Esports, which is Lulba, BBJ, IB Tings, Dequaza, CPX, and Kepi.
Gonna be toxic for like 2 seconds.
Go for it.
Lulba and BBJ, absolutely astounding players. However, tag me when CPX fades.
I think Lulba is insane. Kepi, every time I've seen them, has been a great performer. I really think this team has a lot of potential. I think they have some of the best individually skilled players in the league. I think A or B is pretty safe for me. If they want to send subscriptions or spend channel points on us, we can raise them a little higher.
Yeah, I think B is a good starting place for them. They've got some strong folks. They got some folks that we're desiring to see more from. And, that could be paypal.me/JinxieCat.
I always feel bad rating Lol below because he always wins. He always does well. But it's gonna be an interesting one to see how they perform, especially their assassins both have proven themselves individually, but with very different rosters and different play styles, I think. So it's gonna be an interesting way to see how they do perform. It is Lolba though. High B is what I'm saying here. High B or low A with easily the potential to move up.
That's fair.
Alrighty. Onyx.
I'm going to put them in A. There are a lot of really solid players for a really long period of time. Bad Benny is back. God Filth has those signature heroes, but also plays well across the board. Valimar, great support. And then, you're not the most contested player for no reason. So, at least A for me. There's a little bit to prove there, but all around solid plays.
Very much agree. Always liked Bad Benny's tank play back in the day, so it's good to see him back on that. I'm excited to see how well they perform with that, and they do have that insane flexibility that I think Storm in particular might be lacking, which is why Onyx are a little bit above them here.
Right.
Simplicity. I think it would be foolish to not put them in S tier, considering they're mostly unchanged and won last season.
Yeah, I was going to say the exact same thing. We've only seen Legacy get stronger and stronger.
Yep, they won last season. We can't, in good faith, put them anywhere below first place. They have basically everything they need. The important one. Chili Mountain. Last season had a bit of a shocker. Where do they go this season? They're currently middle of the road in Masters Clash, but it doesn't mean they're coming in with a lot more experience than some of these other teams.
I would say maybe high C, low B, since they are so middle of the road. They've got a couple of players who are looking like they'll do well.
They do have Banana H again, who I think was a big player, and Azerite performed very well in the games they played. I'm willing to go with high B with you, low B, if that sounds good.
Okay.
So maybe over here for now, with space to move up. It's better than where they were last season.
Yeah, I don't have to say, drop them in the dumpster immediately.
Alrighty. Wildtar Esports. Second place last season. S. Yep. Just lower than Simplicity. Chuck them in. That's where they deserve to be. Let's shrink them a little bit. There we go. That's where they deserve to be for now.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but not a lot to say about Wildheart. They are good. They also have basically the same roster, and they picked up a really strong 6th. So...
Yep, can't go wrong there. Alrighty. Oxygen. I'm thinking A, potentially above Onyx.
You think so?
I think so. I think Oxygen, they were so dominant for the majority of the season, and I think the new meta might actually suit Oxygen, the current meta at least, might actually suit Oxygen quite well. I think they have potential to at least stay in the at least stay in the higher 4 of the teams when the season starts. And again, they're mostly unchanged.
That's fair. I'll agree with that. So,
move
a little
Onyx
bit in front of, there we go, Onyx.
Alrighty, there is Oxygen. Alrighty. Granite Gaming, second to last season. Different team this time. Bringing in a lot of the high-value dropped players like Ty and Ultralisk, and Fancy Pants this time.
Maybe like bottom of B tier. Like, we're not giving the audience what they want by putting, but nobody's really low. I don't know. Yeah,
I wouldn't put any of these teams in D tier or C tier, honestly. Like, if we're stretching it and being more flexible, maybe I'd put Chili Mountain or Granite in C tier for now. But the fact is, I don't think either of them are. I don't think any of them deserve to be that low at this point.
Yeah, we don't know enough about them. Their players all perform well on an individual scale. So I think this is a good spot for Granite right now. We'll wait to see. It can go up or down as the icebreaker concludes.
And that just leaves us with 30k. New changes to their roster, bringing in X-Ray and Dynao and Yasu. I think are all really strong choices. I think they have a lot of flexibility. They performed relatively well last season, but they really struggled to find their footing, and the big anchoring of the team is still mostly the same. I'd put them B to A. I'm not sure where in that area.
Yeah,
definitely not
maybe
S.
low A. I think.
Ooh, accidentally I grabbed the wrong screen. Ignore that. Yeah, I'd say low A, so like maybe down to here, not all the way at the bottom of A, but a bit further down.
I think that's fair. Again, really strong players. I'm incredibly surprised by the X-Ray is starting tank, Fury is off on the bench. I don't know if that's,
I'm not 100% sure if he's starting or if it is just Rob said in a comment on our news video that X-Ray is playing tank.
Right. I'd heard that they were starting. Maybe, that might just be hearsay.
Yeah, I think that's what it displayed on the draft.
So wild to me to have a sixth player tank. I don't know if that necessarily offers you the flexibility that you're looking for, but mostly German team, really solid players. If it's French, it's not on the bench, so I think this is a good spot for 30k.
I agree. So I think that is our tier list, other than there is one thing that is higher priority and should be placed higher than Simplicity and Wild Hearts. And in this case, it's funds. So highly prioritized that he nearly broke the draft. So I think it's pretty safe to say that we can put funds at the top of S tier. Do you want this? This is now the funds tier. It's no longer S. It is the funds tier.
That's perfect. I mean, if you want to get technical about it, that's a $1,500 player right there.
Exactly. So that's going to be it for our little draft roundtable here at Stormwatch on the Tetcher channel. You can find links to both of us in the description below, including Twitch links, Twitter links, and donation links if you want to support us directly. We don't get paid to do this. We do it just to try and bring the esports news to the community. So if showing any support is very appreciated because we broke. But otherwise, thank you all very much for watching. New episodes of Stormwatch every Tuesday, so make sure to tune in for that for more CCL news and news from across all of the hero scene. Jixie, anything to add?
Keep an eye out for some more Heroes Global quizzes. They should be starting back up with the CCL. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and watching. It's always a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing y'all on Tuesday.
Have a good night, everybody.